Well, hi, and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams, and I'm here with my co-host, Billy Thomas, and we both work for the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resources. And we have got a wonderful show today that is very, very interesting.
I know, Renee. I'm coming to you with a soggy day here in Kentucky, but that's okay. We're going to be looking at something really beautiful. We have a good friend of the program, Anna Weicker from Raven Run Nature Preserve here in Lexington, Kentucky, is going to be on talking about tagging monarchs. So how they get a tag on a monarch, I just can't wait to see.
I have no idea. I can't wait to see how that happens.
I know, it'll be great. And then we have our very own Megan Doolan's going to be with a mushroom highlight. Megan always does a great job with those, so look forward to that. And then we also have Laurie Thomas with our Tree of the Week this week. So another good show, and I'm glad you all be with us today. If you're joining us via Zoom, you can use the chat pod, and if you're joining us via Facebook Live, you can use the comment section, and we'll try to be responsive to your requests.
Definitely. So Anna, if you want to go ahead and turn your video on. Thanks for being here today and sharing this presentation. I've always said, because you see butterflies and they're kind of floating, floundering around. I feel like that's how I am in life sometimes, but they always end up on their destination. So I've got some ray of hope, but yet they're beautiful and fabulous creatures. And it surprises me how you can even put this little sticker or tag or whatever it is you're putting on them, how you even do that. So
it is it's definitely an interesting experience the first few times you do it. You're kind of pretty shaky, and then it's a little bit nerve-wracking. I think especially too, like so many people, I know I did, get told, like, ever since you're tiny little, like if you touch a butterfly, all the scales will fall off and it will fall apart, and like you have to live with that for the rest of your life. And so, like, being told to like grab a butterfly and stick a sticker on it, I think kind of goes against what you would be normally inclined to do with such a fragile insect. But they're a pretty sturdy butterfly. They're going to go to Mexico, so you putting a sticker on it is by far like not the weirdest thing that they're probably going to encounter like on that journey. So it's a lot of fun. It's absolutely fascinating and a little nerve-wracking.
Wonderful. Well, let's get into your presentation.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we'll ask questions after.
All right, thanks, Anne.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and assume that I am visible.
Looks good.
Excellent. Perfect. Again, my name is Anna, and I am here to talk about monarchs, and I'm really excited that Billy and Renee had me on because I love to talk about monarchs. I would talk anyone's ear off about monarchs. So I'm excited to be here this morning for sure. So especially this time of year when monarch migration is really kicking into gear, you do see a lot about monarch butterflies around. And I think it's interesting that we focus on this species so much. And I think there's a lot of good reasons for that. One, it's just cool. It's big and it's bold and it's colorful and it's, instantly recognizable. I like to think of it as a flagship species for the types of habitats that it inhabits. And we'll get into the habitats a little bit later, but a flagship species is basically like if you think about something that's, cute and cuddly or very charismatic and flashy, like say a polar bear, like that's a stand-in in a lot of people's minds for the habitat that it inhabits and sort of the conservation issues that go along with that. So I always think of, monarch butterflies as kind of like being like the polar bear or the, bald eagle of the little spaces that it inhabits. It's also an indicator species, so it's really a canary in the coal mine as far as like giving us some ideas of what's going on in this ecosystem, because this is something, of course, that we depend on and need as well as lots of other pollinators, insects, plants, animals, like you name it. We're all kind of tied into monarchs in some way, shape, or form. Of course, they do have human cultural importance, which I think is, something that can sort of fall by the wayside when we're talking about the conservation issues sometimes. This is a butterfly that, like, you're going to see whole festivals that are centered around this butterfly. you know, especially in the southern United States and into Mexico, where the migration is sort of you know, it's something that you can witness in a very dramatic way that you really can't in Kentucky. Monarchs are a big deal, like in terms of us, like in terms of human culture. So, and they also have this really unique and dramatic ecology that's kind of different from most butterflies that you come across. So that's always something I think that people are really intrigued by. And that ecology begins as like this wee little tiny egg. Female monarchs lay their eggs like one at a time versus like some butterflies and moths will lay them in like a group of eggs. But monarch eggs will be singular and they'll hatch after 3 to 5 days. So they're not in the egg for very long. And then they hatch and they're a caterpillar and they go through just amazingly rapid growth in, you know, only 9 to 14 days. They go from like little itty bitty, you know, size of your tiny fingernail to really like what I would scientifically classify as a chunky caterpillar. They are absolute eating machines. Like I think that's probably one of the reasons why the female lays one egg at a time, because if you laid a bunch of monarch eggs on one plant, like the caterpillars would just eat it into the ground as soon as they hatched. And of course their host plant is members of the milkweed genus. So milkweeds are essential to monarch survival. They are not adaptable at all in terms of what the caterpillar is able to eat. They really need milkweed plants to feed on, kind of full stop. That's what, you know, if you have milkweed, you probably have monarchs. If you do not have milkweed, you definitely do not have monarchs. After, you know, they reach the largest stage of their caterpillar growth, then they will trundle away from the milkweed and they'll find a little spot to hang, and they will turn into a chrysalis. And the monarch chrysalis, if you've not seen it before, is absolutely beautiful. It's definitely one of my favorite chrysalises or cocoons. It's just like stunningly beautiful. And that hatches after 8 to 15 days, kind of depending on, you know, the length of days and the warmth and that kind of thing. So they don't stay in the chrysalis a terribly long time either. This is a really relatively fast beginning to their life cycle. You can see that one in the picture that's coming out. The chrysalis turns clear right before the butterfly is ready to emerge, and then it splits open and the butterfly emerges, spends a little bit of time drying out, shaking its wings out, and then, you know, it's good to go, and it is an adult monarch butterfly. So really a pretty rapid, you know, again, a pretty rapid beginning to the life cycle. Again, like this is something that you're going to see really, really emphasized in anything about monarch conservation. They do need milkweed. The adults can nectar or feed off of, you know, kind of any of a number of plants, but the young monarchs, the caterpillars need that milkweed to munch on. And then the migration, I think, is really what intrigues people. And this is where the tagging comes in. They are a migratory butterfly and they are a long distance migrant. So this is, you know, pretty extraordinary in the world of insects, I would say. But the eastern US monarchs, so we're talking monarchs that live essentially from the Canadian border over to the Atlantic coast and then to the Rocky Mountains in the west, are almost all essentially, with a few little exceptions here or there, going all the way to central Mexico to overwinter. So these monarchs are making really a pretty tremendous journey in terms of their migratory route there. Like that's quite a fair distance. And they, you know, overwinter in this very small area. We'll see in a second, this very small area in central Mexico. And they are very densely packed there, which is an important aspect of their ecology that makes them relatively easy to assess the population. But you can see in that picture, they're definitely all like scrunched in there together. They migrate or they migrate, and when they overwinter, they're in these, these very, very dense overwintering sites. And then in the spring, they turn right around and they start flying north again. They generally make it to northern Mexico or the southern US, where they will lay eggs and die. So that in total is, that 8 or 9 month lifespan for that monarch. And the eggs that they lay will hatch, and they will, turn into caterpillars, into chrysalises, into butterflies, and then fly a little bit further north and repeat that cycle. So that's why in Kentucky, you really don't see monarch butterflies, commonly before June or even sometimes July, because they're still kind of working their way up from south to north in successive generations. Now, when they get to the end of the summer, and all of this egg laying and all of these generations come to an end, that final generation is what we call the super generation. And that is the generation that is going to live 8 or 9 months and is going to turn around and migrate to Mexico again and repeat this cycle. So, and all those little in-between generations, they might live 6 weeks, but the super generation is bigger, it's longer lived, it's kind of sturdier to facilitate all of the stress and the journey that they have to make to get down there. So here's kind of a map that illustrates that. This is them moving north, and you can see that the northernmost limit of their range is really just up into southern Canada and into the Great Lakes. They really are limited by milkweed, and that's the northernmost range of milkweed species. And that's, again, a really limiting factor with monarchs. You can see there's also a population west of the Rocky Mountain range. So this population really sort of behaves a little bit different than the eastern population in terms of their ecology. So for the purposes of, kind of sticking to what's relevant to Kentucky, then, we kind of think of them as being different because they follow a different migratory route, they overwinter in a different place, and that kind of thing. But there is a western population on the other side of the Rocky Mountain range. This is just an example of the route of the fall movement, back down when they get to the super generation. This is the generation that's moving back to central Mexico. So this is what is happening right now, that our monarchs, our summer monarchs, are getting ready to, pick up shop and start heading back to the overwintering grounds right now, which is why we're tagging right now. So again, like these guys are overwintering in this super dense area, this very small area, which makes it really easy to estimate the population, because we know if like the majority of monarchs in the eastern United States are going to this one specific location where they're packed in really tight, it's really pretty easy to figure out what the entire population of the eastern United States is, like much more so than, surveying many other different species of animals that are just kind of running all over the place. And the data that we have procured from those wintertime population counts, not to be a bummer, but it is a little bit disheartening. Monarch butterflies are definitely a species that faces some conservation issues, and we are seeing a decline in monarch butterfly populations. So this graph shows monarch butterfly populations, and the way that they estimate it is the total area that the population is covering. So this is the total acres covered by the monarch butterfly population on their wintering grounds. And you can see in 1996, which was, a good year, it was almost 45 acres were covered in this area by those densely packed overwintering monarchs, all the way down to last year, so 2020 to 2021, where they only covered 5.18 acres. So that's not great. There's several different reasons for that, and we'll get into it real briefly here in a second. But there is a definite concern as far as the size of the monarch butterfly population and kind of the direction of that trend is not really what we want to see. There's quite a few different issues that are sort of coming into play. There are some issues on the overwintering grounds, although the Mexican government does protect the overwintering grounds. It's the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve, which I would love to go to. I think it would be very magical. And, you know, that is protected. It still has some vulnerabilities as far as illegal logging, especially, you know, that's difficult to prevent on state or federally owned land that doesn't have, you know, necessarily people there to watch over it. And like everywhere, it's vulnerable to weather events. So late freezes, early freezes, storms, tree falls, like anything like that can have a really big impact on the population. Issues on the summer range and during migration is really where Kentucky comes in. Lack of appropriate host plants is what is pushed a lot. So lack of milkweed, you know, we need our milkweed to have our monarchs. There was a study conducted, I think in 2016, that looked at where the decline was really happening. And what they found is that a lot of the issue with monarch butterfly conservation and a lot of the issue with threats that are facing the population occurs during migration. So it's occurring as they're moving, you know, north to south in the fall towards their overwintering grounds. And a big cause of that is lack of food. So, you know, there's not a lot of opportunity kind of in modern yards and modern agriculture to leave like little waste spaces of, you know, ironweed and goldenrod and milkweed and all of those lovely plants so that the butterflies have something to snack on as they're heading down south. So that's a really big issue. So leaving plants into the fall and even into the early winter could potentially do a lot as far as ensuring that butterflies have something to eat as they're heading down to Mexico. So yeah, habitat, that's a really important component. And again, it's not just milkweed, although milkweed is important. There's plenty of great resources out here. I would recommend looking at Monarch Watch's guidelines to create your own Monarch Waystation, and that's up on the screen. And that's a really great thing to work off of to create a Monarch Waystation or a pollinator garden in your yard. But honestly, like if you have Queen Anne's lace like black-eyed Susan in a bucket on your porch, then that's kind of like a little McDonald's or something for butterflies that are traveling down towards Mexico on their migratory route. So it doesn't have to be like revamping your whole landscaping to be helpful to butterflies. Although these are some, kind of dramatic examples of landscape management there. The other thing that's really important, and that's where tagging comes in, is monarch research. Monarch butterflies are really, like, to me, the creature that I think of when I think of citizen science, community science efforts. Like, I really can't think of another organism that has so much community science focus on it. And I think that's really cool. Like, there's so many animals that are endangered or threatened where we sort of feel like maybe as community scientists that's the professionals' job to, sort of take care of. Like, probably none of us are like going to be cloning black-footed ferrets in our basement or, anything like that. But monarch butterflies is a species where really communities are the ones who are getting this data and getting this research that gives us the information we need to make conservation decisions. So there's so many of them. I put a few logos up here on the screen, but there are a lot of community science programs that focus on monarch butterflies. And of course, my own personal favorite is the monarch tagging program that is done through Monarch Watch, which is currently based, I believe, out of the University of Kansas. And this is extra levels of cool, I think, because like if you have ever experienced bird banding, you have to have a state and a federal license to do that. You know, it's not something that's really accessible or easy to do for someone who's just engaged with this at a community science level. But monarch tagging can be done by anyone. You don't need a permit. You just need some training and oversight so you can kind of learn how to do it. And then, you know, you buy a kit and you can get going with participating in this program. You order them from Monarch Watch and they deliver them to, like, they ship them out to coincide with when the monarch butterflies are arriving in your area. So in Kentucky, that's, you know, we really start tagging in the beginning of September. That's when they're starting to move. That's when they're starting to, you know, come through from areas further north. So we get our tags in late August or early September, and we start tagging in early September. And then you submit all your data online, and then Monarch Watch hires people on the overwintering grounds to literally go through and see what they can find as far as tagged individuals. And along the way too, you'll have people find, you know, a monarch butterfly in their backyard in Texas, and they can report that to Monarch Watch. You can see there's these tiny little letters with like a, you know, a number there and an email where you can report a tag that you found. And then they can match it against the data people have submitted and be like, oh, that monarch in Texas came from Michigan. And from that, we can gather a lot of data about migratory success, mortality rates, sex ratios of successful migrants, and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of cool information that you can get out of this. And this is the little data kit that they send you. They give you everything that you need to collect all the data to tag the monarchs and to send it back. And there is a small fee associated with it to help them process that data, but it's really pretty minimal. So that's what it looks like when it's on the butterfly. It goes on a particular cell on the wing, and that is for, you know, a specific reason. Like, that's the area where they determined, hey, we can stick this and it's not going to interfere with the butterfly's flight pattern or cause it any discomfort. So it does go on that specific area on the wing where you can see it in that picture. And you can see those little tiny letters on there. That one has, I think these are the older tags. I think that they only have an email on them now. I could be wrong. Oh, I have some on my desk. Yes, they only have an email contact on them now. But they also have this unique number. So that's how they can you know, tie in this unique monarch butterfly with the data that comes with it. Is on this butterfly, it's RPW335. And that is unique to that monarch. That's not ever going to be on any other tag. So that's how they kind of trace them. This is just a little bit from Monarch Watch about the placement. Again, this is something that I think is kind of nerve-wracking to people, and it was definitely nerve-wracking to me, and it's still nerve-wracking to me. I just try to pretend that I'm not like nervous, but I'm going to hurt the butterfly. But it definitely becomes easier the more you do it. You know, it's definitely one of those things like that the more you do it, the more you're going to feel comfortable and confident, and that does help a lot. So when you hold them, what you do, and I have a monarch butterfly specimen here that when I'm done with the PowerPoint, I would be happy to kind of demonstrate this, but there is a particular way that you hold them, and you can see that this individual in the picture is doing it. Basically, you catch them in a net, and then whatever way you can to get them into your hand, you get them into your hand. And then the grip that you use to hold them when you tag them is you pinch the wings together closed right above the body. So you really want to immobilize all of the wings, and you want to have the body as close to your fingers as possible, so there's not a risk of the butterfly flapping and getting any of its wings loose or bending them or anything like that. And it's pretty secure. The only thing that will happen sometimes is like their little butterfly feet will like grab a hold of you or grab a hold of the sticker or grab a hold of something, and then it just turns into a big mess, because butterflies are surprisingly destructive with their little butterfly feet. So this one in the picture looks like it's you know, behaving pretty well, but they can be a little squirrely. The data that they look for when you actually catch a monarch butterfly and go to tag it is they look for whether it was wild or reared. So there's some discussion about the difference in migratory success between butterflies that were just caught out of your yard and a butterfly that you raised from a caterpillar in your house. So they look for that information. Of course, they look for the date and location. And they also look for whether it is a male or a female, which is one of those things that does become like, sort of second nature to you after you do a few to look for and be able to tell the difference. You can see with the male, there's a widened part on the veins on the hind wings, the spread hind wings. And the female has just very thick, uniform veins on her hind wings. And it really sticks out to you when you see two different ones and compare them. Like it's really pretty unmistakable. So that's kind of the breakdown of, monarch butterfly conservation and what we can do to get involved and how the tagging process works. It's one of those things that is definitely, when you see it done in person, you're like, oh, okay, I see how you could stick a sticker on a butterfly. And I would definitely recommend, if it's something that you're interested in learning about, that you do get in touch with someone who already does it so that they can kind of show you a couple times so you can get comfortable. That is what I did. I didn't get into it without sort of watching someone else do it first. And I think that really helps a lot. So I'm always happy to talk to anyone about monarch tagging. We do tag monarch butterflies out here at Raven Run. So, as long as it's the tagging season, I'm happy to have people come out if we've got some monarch butterflies on hand and learn how to tag them. And we do actually this Sunday, I think around 2 p.m., we're partnering with the North American Butterfly Association, the local chapter, to go out and find some monarchs and tag them. So if anyone's interested in tagging along for that, then
No pun intended.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
That is good.
If anyone's interested, then feel free to shoot me an email and I can give you more information. But yeah, that's kind of all I've got. Oh, I do have my little monarch and this is maybe weird that I have a dead monarch on my desk, but it came out of the chrysalis with some malformations that caused it to not survive. So you can see this is basically how you do the little grip.
Let's turn off our cameras so she's bigger.
All right.
In case anyone wants to see the sort of the technique here, it's really easier than what you would think it would be. You're just holding them close to the body, all of the wings immobilized. And then I have a little, like this is what a sticker sheet looks like. So, it might be a little hard to focus on that, but, and there's a few that are like extras on here that they say do not use. So I'm about to use them. But they're really kind of finicky. They have a very strong adhesive since they have to last on a butterfly to get to Mexico. So usually what I'll do is I'll have someone help me in case things start to go, in a bad direction, butterflies start grabbing stuff. And then to the best of my abilities, I'll just hold the tag like, by the edges rather than by the sticky part and just drop it onto the butterfly. And then you can do, a little pinch to kind of stick it on there. And then you can see it just sits on there like that. And obviously it's much easier on a butterfly specimen than it is on a live butterfly that may or may not be inclined to be cooperative with you. But again, I think it is one of those things that once you do it, you're like, oh, okay. I am empowered to tag monarchs and participate in community science. So yeah, that's what I got for y'all.
That was so interesting.
I know I've got a million questions, right?
Right. I was like, we could do like 5 shows just on this.
All right. So first of all, how does that last super generation know that they need to go back to Mexico?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that's crazy.
I agree. It's just one of those things where I'm like, but how? And I think that there is some. So I've seen a lot of research that's like, how do they navigate? So like, do they use, lights, or do they use the stars, or do they use, sort of intergenerational memory? But I have not heard anything that has sort of explained why. So there's several generations at least between each generation. It's not like birds where the young are doing what the parents did. There's several generations between these super generations. And so I don't have a good answer. And if anyone knows, I would love to see some research, because that's just amazing to me that it skips generations, that ability. It's just,
I think it just points out there's a lot we don't know. Right.
Yeah. And even with monarchs, it was not known until relatively recently, their migratory routes and where they ended up. So like, this is, something that's a really pretty huge sort of natural occurrence that we really didn't know very much about until, the Monarch Watch program only started in 1996. So it's really pretty new knowledge.
I've always been amazed how birds fly far, for the winter, but I'm even more amazed with how a monarch flies that far. I mean, they got tiny little wings, and
and they've never been there before, Renee.
No.
I mean, they don't even know what. I mean, it's crazy. It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's really
there's
cool.
Never any repeats. It's always, they make one trip and that's it.
Yeah.
And I saw in the news that they found a butterfly from Kentucky and Mexico already. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was really exciting. I was happy to see monarchs out there, like, representing on the front page.
That's awesome. I mean, what an interesting thing, and a great way to connect people with nature. They can be so charismatic and get us to care about, not only them, but other pollinators and other things that are out there. And I was going to mention, if you are a landowner, or a landowner that's interested in establishing pollinator habitat, there are a number of programs that are available through the Natural Resources Conservation Service to help support those efforts. So get with your forester, your wildlife biologist, and they can hook you up with those programs that can help you get some good pollinator habitat, including some milkweed, out on your property. So yeah, Anna, that was awesome.
Yeah. Can you go to any place to try to find milkweed or black-eyed Susans or where have you?
In terms of like purchasing them for
nursery or something, to be able to plant something in your yard to actually help you out?
We've gone to a few different local ones. It probably kind of depends on where you are. Monarch Watch, the program that oversees the monarch tagging program, actually has a cool opportunity on their website where they will basically award you as a grant a bunch of milkweed. And it is milkweed that is genetically specific to the region you're in. So we've actually received that out here at Raven Run before. We planted like 2 acres of butterfly milkweed. So that might be an option for people that are wanting to get a hold of like a large amount to do, planting, to maybe look into that. And, kind of depending on where you are, there's probably a local nursery, near pretty much everyone, or, a resource that you can tap into. I know that if, people need advice, I'm always happy to talk to them. And dare I say extension.
Yeah, I would say, go visit with your
local extension people.
Yes, always visit your local county agent. Yes, I would totally agree.
Right, definitely.
Oh, Anna, thank you for that. That was really interesting. Sure. I mean, the work you all are doing out there at Raven Run in Lexington Parks is really cool. So we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, we'll have you back, Anna.
We definitely will.
You got good stuff, man. You do. Right. I appreciate it. All right, take care, Anna. Good talking with you.
All right, so tree of the week.
Yeah, so we're going to cover Tree of the Week. This week we have Blackgum, and Laurie can't be with us today. She's actually down in Southeast Kentucky doing a program with a bunch of middle schoolers from all across the state. So, but she did put this together for us, and I'll go ahead and try to share that now.
If anybody has any questions, though, we have plenty of foresters on, including Billy, who will be able to help answer those. So just type them in the chat pod or leave them in the comment section on Facebook.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the black gum. Black gum. Nyssa sylvatica, also known as black tupelo, tupelo, tupelo gum, or sour gum. Black gum is in the Cornaceae or dogwood family. It is a deciduous medium to large tree, and it typically grows 50 to 80 feet tall with a diameter somewhere between 24 and 36 inches. Black gum has moderate growth rate and longevity. Trees have dense foliage and a conical crown. It's a beautiful landscape or ornamental tree. The flowers are important for honey production, and the fruit is a valuable wildlife food source. Black gum is a common tree of the eastern deciduous forest. It grows in the eastern and into the midwestern United States. It grows on a wide variety of sites, from moist alluvial soils to relatively dry uplands. It is found in 29 different forest cover types. It is classified as shade tolerant and usually occupies an intermediate crown position on most sites, rarely growing into the dominant crown class. It can be confused with common persimmon or sourwood. Black gum is a deciduous tree with alternately arranged leaves, as you can see in the photo. The leaves are simple in form and oblong to obovate in shape. They are typically 3 to 5 inches long with pinnate venation, which means the leaf has one main vein extending from the base to the tip of the leaf with smaller veins branching off. They are dark green, usually glossy above and paler below. Fall color is outstanding. The leaves turn a spectacular crimson, purple, yellow, or orange in the fall. Black gum is a handsome landscape tree year-round, from the waxy spring leaves to the spectacular fall color and beautiful winter form. Black gum is usually dioecious, meaning there are trees with female flowers and other trees that have male flowers. The flowers bloom from April through June, and they're in clusters hanging from slender stalks. The flowers are not particularly showy, they're just kind of a light green in color. They do appear with the leaves, and the flowers are pollinated by insects, particularly bees, which utilize the nectar from the flowers to produce honey. The fruit of the black gum is a dark purple-blue drupe. A drupe is a fleshy fruit with thin skin and a central stone containing the seed. The black gum drupe is about a ½ inch long, and it has a ribbed seed or pit. The fruit ripens in late summer and fall, sometime between September through October. The seeds are dispersed by gravity and by birds and animals. The birds eat the fleshy fruit, and the seeds are passed through their digestive tract. The seeds remain dormant until the following spring. Black gum seed production is highly variable from one year to the next. Black gum is a very valuable wildlife tree. The young sprouts are commonly browsed by white-tailed deer. The flowers are a great source of nectar for bees and other insects, and the fruit is a good source of crude fat and high in nutrients such as phosphorus and calcium, and they are eaten by a variety of birds as well as mammals, including, just to name a few, the American robin, thrushes, mockingbirds, woodpeckers, cedar waxwings, and gray catbirds. Mammals include black bear and fox. As black gum ages, the limbs begin to deteriorate, and the decayed holes make great dens for mammals such as squirrels, raccoons, and possums, as well as our cavity nesting birds such as woodpeckers and honeybees. Between the nectar for the bees and the hollow trunks, black gum is an important tree for wild honey production. The bark is reddish-brown to gray-brown in color. On younger stems, the bark has an irregular, shallow furrows, and on older trunks, the bark can become very blocky, and some may describe it as looking like alligator hide. On old trunks, the bark may be up to 1 inch thick. The wood is light and uniform in texture, and the sapwood is wide, kind of a pale yellow color, sometimes has a gray cast to it, and the heartwood is narrower, and it's kind of a brown to gray. Quarter sawn surfaces have a ribbon-striped figure, which is really attractive, but it's due to interlocking grain. Interlocked grain is the result of wood fibers that twist during growth, resulting in a spiral orientation of the fibers up the trunk, and this spiral orientation will change direction from year to year or in groups of multiple years, which creates this interlocking grain. Wood with interlocked grain can be difficult to machine, split, or nail, which is the case with black gum. The majority of black gum trees are not considered desirable growing stock and are oftentimes left standing after a commercial timber harvest. When the wood is harvested, it's used for cross ties, pallets, containers. It's essentially a utility wood. It's also used for hand carving. As you can see in this bowl, it can be quite beautiful. Historically, the wood was used for tool handles and gun stocks, and as we've already heard before, the flowers are very important for honey protection. The national champion blackgum is in Wood, Texas. It's 247 inches in circumference, 78 feet tall, with a 95-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest Champion Tree Register or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about blackgum. Nyssa sylvatica's genus name, Nyssa, refers to the Greek water nymph Nyssa. The species name sylvatica is from the Latin silva, meaning from the woods, and refers to the woodland habitat of this tree. The name tupelo is used primarily in the American South. Northward and in Appalachia, the tree is more commonly called blackgum or sour gum, although no part of this plant is particularly gummy. The hollow sections of blackgum trunks were formerly used by beekeepers as bee gums. I'm glad you joined me today, and I hope you enjoyed learning about the beautiful and bountiful blackgum.
Well, we always enjoy Lori doing those. And Lori, for what Lori just said, Billy, I think we just learned something. We should be called Silva today instead of From the Woods today, right? That works.
That whole Tree of the Week series is great, though. Sorry.
It is. It's wonderful. That some of those look like blueberries almost on a tree.
I know
Have you ever tasted them? Do they?
No. I think they're pretty bitter. Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, for us, wildlife may enjoy them, but
Right.
different palates.
Different palates, exactly. Speaking of different palates, we are moving on to mushrooms.
I know we have Megan, our very own Megan's here with us today, and Megan Buland is going to be doing another kind of update on some of these cool fungi we see out there. Hey, Megan.
Hey, how are you all doing today?
Good.
And this one is so neat. I was telling her before the show started, you just look like you just want to walk up and pet it,
Definitely. This is actually one of my favorite fungi, and it's one that's starting to get ready to fruit here within the next month or so. So I'm really excited that we're doing this today.
All right.
Well, let's watch them, then we'll ask you questions after.
All right, sounds good.
This is a Hericium mushroom. This is a very small specimen. They can get to be fairly good sized. I've seen some that are a little bit smaller than basketball sized on occasion. There are several different species within the genus of Hericium, and they can be sometimes a little difficult to tell apart, especially when they're smaller like this. But they're a really lovely group of mushrooms. They're sometimes called pom-pom mushrooms or lion's mane mushrooms. And Hericium are toothed fungi. So rather than gills or pores, they have these little teeth that look kind of like icicles that hang down off of the fruiting body of the fungus. And that's where the basidiospores would be produced. This guy's a little small yet. They are always white when they're fresh. As they get a little bit past maturity, they can take on a little bit of a yellow coloration to them, but younger specimens and fresh specimens are always going to be a nice white color. Sometimes they're completely round pom-poms like this. Sometimes they're branched and they look kind of more like icicle or coral structures. It just depends on the species of Hericium that you're looking at. They also have a very distinctive aroma. It's kind of sweet, slightly pungent, and a little bit difficult to describe, but once you've smelled it, you'll definitely associate that distinctive smell with Hericium fungi. They can be parasites or saprophytes, so they can either grow on decaying wood or they can grow on living trees as a parasite. It just depends upon the situation that you're in. Here in the east, we usually find them on hardwood trees. Occasionally out west, you'll see them growing on conifers, but like I said, in our area, almost always hardwood trees for the little Hericium fungi.
Thank you, Megan. We greatly appreciate that. And if you can bring up your camera, we'll talk a little bit about that. So is this something you can eat?
It is actually. It's sometimes something that you can eat if you know what you're looking at. We try to be really careful about offering advice on edibility because it's important to keep in mind that mushrooms, if you don't identify them correctly, can be really dangerous. So while I definitely love foraging for mushrooms and looking for different mushrooms, we've covered some on here before actually that are very, very toxic. And mushroom foraging needs to always be treated with respect. So while like there are some of these that are technically edible, as a rule, I try to not comment upon edibility when talking with public groups about these.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I might get transferred to another one that's not edible.
Right.
Exactly. And that just happens sometimes.
Yep.
So your best bet is to find your local grocery store or farmer's market or someplace like that to buy your mushrooms.
That's right. Or you can try growing your own. You know, mushrooms like lion's mane, this is a mushroom that you can grow from a kit. You can go to a reputable supplier and they will send you this lovely hardwood sawdust block that's inoculated. I mean, it's had the mycelium from this fungus kind of added to that sawdust, and the fungus is feeding on it. And when it has build up all that space, that fungus will fruit and you'll have your own lion's mane that you can cook with at home. And that's a product that you know is safe to consume. It's been provided to you by someone who's reputable and who knows what they're doing and does this for a business. So that's always an option too, if you want to try kind of test out growing your own mushrooms at home, but you don't want to invest in all the supplies, just buy a kit.
Is there a wrong way to grow mushrooms from that?
Oh, from the kids? No,
Right.
it's pretty easy. They send you all these wonderful instructions and all the supplies you need. The most you need is maybe like a spray bottle with some water and you're good to go. You can grow your own mushrooms.
That's
There
interesting.
you go. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that. Do they have to be in a dark, do you have to keep them in a dark place?
No, actually,
No?
mushrooms want some light. So, I think that there's this common conception that mushrooms like to grow in the dark, in the leaf mold down on the forest floor. But actually, to fruit, mushrooms do want a high amount of light. And it makes sense. You want that fruiting body, which is what we think of as the mushroom, to be out and exposed to the environment. So the mushrooms do need light to really induce that successful fruiting.
Very cool. So many cool mushrooms out there, Megan. And you've been introducing us slowly to them, but please keep them coming. I think, people are always curious about these things that we see out there.
Oh yeah, mushrooms are so cool and there's such a fantastic diversity, especially here in places like Kentucky and the southeastern US. We have incredible mushroom diversity and we're entering into one of the best times of year to see a lot of those fungi. Fall is such a great time to go looking for mushrooms when you're out on a hike. We have all this rain. It's not quite as hot and dry as it was during the summer. So there's a lot of really cool fungi that are starting to pop up and you'll see them when you're out for your walk.
Yeah. A good excuse to get out in the woods.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Megan before we started, and she's got a presentation on common fungi of Kentucky. So we may end up seeing that.
We got to bring her back for that one.
Exactly.
Sounds good.
So Megan, we appreciate you being on.
Yeah. Thanks for being part of the team and I appreciate your contributions. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Cool. Cool topics today.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Who would have thought you could actually tag a butterfly?
I am still puzzled about how that last super generation finds its way back.
I know. We'll have to do some research and you'll have to let us know what you find out.
And we saw some cool mushrooms and a cool tree, blackgum. So thank you all for being with us. We enjoy doing this show, but we're doing it for you all to try to get good content out. So if you have something you'd like to see on a future episode, check us out on FromTheWoodsToday.com. We have a little survey link. You can submit suggestions for future show topics and we'd be happy to entertain those. But again, thank you all for being with us today.
And another thing, Billy, if they just, I know I'm probably going to go back and want to watch that butterfly one again, just to see all the great information. You can go to FromTheWoodsToday.com and find out, watch any of our shows, any of the shows that we've done. I think we've got over 70 shows up there. A lot of content you could watch for days if you wanted to binge watch, From the Woods Today. It's there for your watching.
Yeah, no doubt. But again, we appreciate y'all being with us each week. If you know of others that would enjoy the show, please spread the word and help us get the news out there.
Right. So until then, we will see you next week on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Until then, take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.